Robert James "Bob" Fitzsimmons was a British professional boxer who made boxing history as the sport's first three-division world champion. He also achieved fame for beating Gentleman Jim Corbett, and he is in the Guinness Book of World Records as the lightest heavyweight champion, nicknamed Ruby Robert and the Freckled Wonder. He took pride in his lack of scars and appeared in the ring wearing heavy woolen underwear to conceal the disparity between his trunk and leg development. He was also known for his pure fighting skills due to dislike of training for fights, which cost him at times in his career. Considered one of the hardest punchers in boxing history, Fitzsimmons is ranked as No. 8 on Ring Magazine's list of 100 greatest punchers of all time. Biography. Oceanian-era Fitzsimmons, the youngest of 12 children, was born in Helston, Cornwall. His father was James Fitzsimmons, an Irishman born in County Armagh, and his British mother was Jane Strongman, born in St Clement, Cornwall. Bob emigrated to New Zealand at the age of 9 along with his parents, brothers and sisters. His family settled in Timbro, among many other British settlers, and Bob became a blacksmith in his brother Jarrett's smithy. He was a practicing blacksmith most of his life between 1880 and 1881. Fitzsimmons reigned as champion of the Gem Mace tournament in New Zealand. Some say he officially began his career as a professional boxer in New Zealand later in 1881. Records remain unclear whether he received payment for a bout in which he knocked out Herbert Slade in 2 rounds. Fitzsimmons had 6 fights in New Zealand, 2 of them bare-knuckle events. He won 1 and lost 5. It remains unclear whether any of those bouts involved payment. Boxing record books show Fitzsimmons officially began boxing professionally in 1883 in Australia. He beat Jim Crawford by getting a knockout in 3 rounds. Fitzsimmons had his first 28 definite professional fights in Australia, where he lost for the Australian middleweight title to Mick Dooley, and where he also won a fight by knockout while on the floor. When Edward Starlight Robbins dropped Fitzsimmons to the canvas in round 9 of the fight, he also broke his hand and could not continue. Therefore the referee declared Fitzsimmons the winner by a knockout. By this stage, Fitzsimmons had established his own style. He developed a certain movement and caginess from one of the greatest bare-knuckle fighters, Jim Mace. Mace encouraged Fitzsimmons to develop his punching technique, drawing on the enormous power he had gained from blacksmithing. Fitzsimmons delivered short, accurate and occasionally conclusive punches. He soon built up a reputation as by far the hardest puncher in boxing, winning the middleweight title. Moving on to the United States, Fitzsimmons fought 4 more times in 1890, winning 3 and drawing 1. Then, on the 14th of January 1891, in New Orleans, he won his first world title from Jack Dempsey. Fitzsimmons knocked out Dempsey in the 13th round to become the world middleweight champion. Fitzsimmons knocked Dempsey down at least 13 times and by the finish left him in such a pitiable condition that he begged him to quit. Since Dempsey would not do so, Fitzsimmons knocked him out and then carried him to his corner. On the 22nd of July, police broke off his fight with Jim Hall after he had knocked Hall down several times. Fitzsimmons spent the next 2 years fighting non-title bouts and exhibitions until giving Hall a chance at the title in 1893. He retained the crown by a knockout in round 4. He spent the rest of that year doing exhibitions, and on the 2nd of June, he had scheduled a 2-way exhibition where he would demonstrate in public how to hit the boxing bag and then how to box against a real opponent. Reportedly, 2 freak accidents happened that day. Fitzsimmons hit the bag so hard that it broke, and then his opponent of that day allegedly slipped, getting hit in the head, and a boxing exhibition was cancelled. At a public sparring performance on November 16, 1894 at Jacob's Opera House, Syracuse, New York, Fitzsimmons knocked out sparring partner Con Reardon, who was carried off unconscious and died several hours later. 2 months later, Fitzsimmons was charged with manslaughter but was acquitted. After vacating the middleweight title, Fitzsimmons began campaigning at heavyweight. On the 2nd of December 1896, the San Francisco Athletic Club sponsored a fight at the Mechanics Pavilion in San Francisco between Fitzsimmons and Tom Sharkey. Unable to find a referee, they called on former lawman Wyatt Earp. He had officiated 30 ISA matches in earlier days, though not under the Marquess of Queensberry rules. The fight may have been the most anticipated fight on American soil that year. Fitzsimmons was favored to win, and bets flowed heavily his way. Earp entered the ring still armed with his customary Colt .45 and drew a lot of attention when he had to be disarmed. He later said he forgot he was wearing it. Fitzsimmons was taller and quicker than Sharkey and dominated the fight from the opening bell. In the 8th round, Fitzsimmons hit Sharkey with his famed solar plexus punch, an uppercut under the heart that could render a man temporarily helpless. The punch caught Sharkey, Earp, and most of the crowd by surprise, and Sharkey dropped, clutched his groin, and rolled on the canvas, screamed foul. Earp stopped the bout, ruling that Fitzsimmons had hit Sharkey when he was down. His ruling was greeted with loud boos and cat calls. Earp based his decision on the Marquess of Queensberry rules, which state in part, a man on one knee is considered down and if struck is entitled to the stakes. Very few witnessed the foul Earp ruled on. He awarded the decision to Sharkey, who attendants carried out as limp as a rag. Winning the heavyweight title in 1896, Fitzsimmons won a disputed version of the World Heavyweight Championship in a fight in Langtry, Texas, against the Irish fighter Peter Marr. On the 17th of March 1897, in Carson City, Nevada, he knocked out American Jim Corbett, generally recognized as the legitimate world heavyweight champion, in round 14. This constituted a remarkable achievement, as Jim Corbett, a skilled boxer, weighed 1 stone 3 pounds more than Fitzsimmons. He outboxed Fitzsimmons for several rounds, knocked him down in the 6th round and badly damaged his face with his jab, left hook and right hand. But Fitzsimmons kept coming and Corbett began to tire. In the 14th round, Fitzsimmons won the title with his solar plexus punch. Corbett collapsed in agony. Fitzsimmons' solar plexus punch became legendary, although he himself may never have used the phrase. The entire fight was filmed by Enoch J. Rector and released to cinemas as the Corbett-Fitzsimmons fight, the longest film ever released at the time. Using her maiden name, it was covered by Nellie Verrill Miles Davis, the first woman to report a prize fight. Fitzsimmons spent the rest of 1897 and 1898 doing stage tours. In 1899, Fitzsimmons fought James J. Jeffries at the Coney Island Athletic Club near Brooklyn, New York. Most people gave Jeffries little chance, even though at over 15 stones he massively outweighed his opponent and was far younger. But Jeffries lifted the world heavyweight champion from Fitzsimmons with an 11th round knockout. In June 1901, Fitzsimmons took part in a wrestling match against Gus Rulin. He lost and went back to boxing. He then enjoyed legitimate boxing knockouts of leading contenders Rulin and Tom Sharkey. In 1901 he published a book, Physical Culture and Self-Defense. In 1902, he and Jeffries had a rematch, once again with the world heavyweight champion at stake. Fitzsimmons battered Jeffries, who suffered horrible punishment. With his nose and cheekbones broken, most would have sympathized with Jeffries had he quit, but he kept going until his enormous strength and youth wore down Bob and he knocked him out cold in round 8, winning the light heavyweight title. In November 1903, Fitzsimmons made history by defeating world light heavyweight champion George Gardner by a decision in 20 rounds, becoming the first boxer to win titles in 3 weight divisions. Soon afterward, he went back to the heavyweights where he kept fighting until 1914, with mixed results. In 1907, at age 44, Fitzsimmons fought much younger Jack Johnson, during the time period in which reigning champion James J. Jeffries refused to fight Johnson. The bout between Johnson and Fitzsimmons ended in victory for Johnson with a second-round knockout. Retirement. Although Fitzsimmons became a world champion in each of the middleweight, light heavyweight and heavyweight divisions, historians do not consider him the first world light heavyweight champion to become world heavyweight champion, because he won the heavyweight title before winning the light heavyweight belt. Michael Spinks counts as the first light heavyweight world champion to win the heavyweight belt as well. However, Fitzsimmons was the first middleweight champion to win the heavyweight title and the only heavyweight champion to drop down and win the light heavyweight title. Fitzsimmons and later Henry Armstrong were the only men to win undisputed world championships in 3 different weight classes. Fitzsimmons had a final professional record of 66 wins with 59 by knockout, 8 losses, 4 draws, 19 no contests and 2 no decisions. Fitzsimmons's exact record remains unknown, as the boxing world often kept records poorly during his era. But Fitzsimmons said he had had more than 350 fights. The statue piece on the Dewey Arch was modeled on Fitzsimmons by the sculptor Daniel Chester French. He died in Chicago of pneumonia in 1917, survived by his 4th wife. His grave lies in the Graceland Cemetery, Chicago. Having 4 wives, a gambling habit and a susceptibility to confidence tricksters, he did not hold on to the money he made. The International Boxing Hall of Fame has made Bob Fitzsimmons a member in its old-timer category. In 2003, Ring magazine named Fitzsimmons number 8 of all time among boxing's best punches. Professional boxing records.